Welcome back to the news today. Today marks the 35th anniversary of the murder of rock legend John Lennon, the former Beatles frontman who went to have a successful solo career. But Lennon was more than just a musician. He was an icon who influenced an entire generation. In his memory, we take a look at the impact that culture has on society, in essence, how art affects life. But first, Shani Nachshoni looks back at Lennon's impact.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try.
35 years ago, world news was interrupted with a report about the murder of John Lennon, the icon of an entire generation.
Late this evening, one of the world's great entertainers and musicians, John Lennon of the Beatles, was shot outside his New York home.
Imagine all the
Since then, so much has changed, and yet so much stayed the same. Although it's been a long time, even babies born on the day he died acknowledge his contribution to music in particular and to culture in general. His killer, a delusional fan named Mark David Chapman, remains in jail, and his requests for parole have been denied a few times. The former Beatle who wrote the lyrics of Imagine may have been ahead of his time. His dreams and aspirations still echo after terror attacks and tragedies nowadays, like a modern prophet's prediction.
I think the peace movement side of it more than anything, you know. I know a lot of Americans didn't like his attitude over Vietnam and things like that, but if you think about it, war is bad, isn't it? Peace is good. It's just common sense, really.
Lennon was one of the first musicians to speak out loud and long about politics, something controversial then and still divisive now. Watching the news today can only make one wonder what Lennon would think about the modern incarnation of evil, IS terrorist Jihadi John, who's nicknamed after him. An irony given that Lennon once famously declared that war is over if you want it.
and the world will live as one.
Yes, and with me here in the studio is Sefi Efrati, I-24 News editor and musician. Good evening.
Good evening.
And Kobe Sandhouse, member of the Magical Mystery Tour Band. Good evening.
Hi, how are you?
And also Akiva Nof, journalist, politician, we can say, who interviewed John Lennon.
Thank you.
So let's start with you. You met John Lennon, you interviewed John Lennon. I think it's just an honor to have you here and to have a legend.
It was my honor.
And it's our honor to have you here, but it is interviewing a legend. It's interviewing a person who had a big impact on an entire generation, like we said.
And I must say, he was eager to speak. There was someone in the room, he asked him to leave for 10 minutes to speak. And then when the one came in, he said, go another 10 minutes. He was just eager to speak and to give his platform.
Yeah, we can see a picture of you in bed with him, right?
Yes, I mean, in the
corona.
beginning I was with a tie and a jacket, and I felt kind of strange. They were so cozy. So I asked them, may I join you in bed in pyjama? Yes, yes, come in.
So can you just tell, what was the interview about? What did you speak about? What did you talk about?
What not? Of course, peace. And of course, for example, I was surprised to find out that he said they have normal, what he called normal, quiet life, work, home, no clubs, no other entertainments. That's what he said. And this was one thing. Another issue was the issue of reincarnation, life after death, and the fact that we are speaking about him now, maybe this is life after death.
Yeah, I think that he's still living each and every day after his murder. Let's see a part of the interview. What did we just see?
Beg pardon?
What did we just hear?
We had a line of a song that I wrote about Jerusalem, and I asked him if he knows an Israeli song. So he said, only Hava Nagila, ha ha ha. So I said, would you like to sing one of my songs? Oh, yes, yes. I wrote down very quickly a line, and he sang it, and this is the only time that John Lennon sings in Hebrew.
You know, let's talk about a little bit about the influence of artists on our lives, and I ask myself if today we can see this phenomena happening on big artists. Actually, we can say, okay, this musician influenced me growing up. Maybe we can say it about Arik Einstein, but can we say it on like current musicians?
We can. The best example
musicians?
would be U2. We just watched a little bit of them in Shani Nachshoni's report. Bono today tries to be what Lennon used to be, and McCartney and Harrison, by the way, and Ringo Starr. They all stood up for peace and social values. And Bono today, wherever there is a political dispute, such in Myanmar, wherever there are terror attacks, he pops up. But today,
someone really listening to what Bono has to say, or any of...
I think today people recognize that art has much more to do with PR than before. And even in the days of the Beatles, art still was widely promoted by record companies, and so were the ideas. The ideas that were played on these songs, of all Beatle members, of all, even the Beatles, I can just name one example, is Revolution. It's a John Lennon song urging a social revolution that was issued at least thrice. Even then, it was recognized that big money had a part in that.
Of course, big money has a part in it, but you know, I'm trying, when we are looking today at, let's say, the text that musicians are writing, you cannot find this in a lot of texts, or maybe the majority of the texts, you cannot find this calling for
I think John,
action like we used to hear.
I think John Lennon
before.
was trying to convince people back then that all the things like money, power, boundaries, countries, possession, it was trying to convince people that it's meaningless. And what is is how you, apart me from my bad English,
No, it's okay.
how you react to other people. And love them as much as you love yourself, all this kind of crap. So it was very important to John Lennon, beside of the
It
song.
seems today, if you're...
In this interview, he said, I may excuse him as someone who writes for money too. I mean, commercialized. He said, my songs are coming from the air. I don't get up in the morning saying, well, I'm going to write on this and that. What happens, happens. And then he said, and this made possible the fact that I'm here in the Hilton and all the rest. I mean, he was very aware to the fact that this gives him a kind of a status as a capitalist.
But you know, if we are hearing today artists, for example, putting out and saying out their political views, in some of the cases they will pay a price, and they usually will pay a price in money, in the incomes. We saw it here happening in Operation Protective Edge when musicians and artists tried to say what they have to say, and they ended up paying the price by the people, by the society that they're trying to preach to be better. So we got to a point where art and politics cannot combine forces together in order to take us to a better place.
That's a difference between nowadays and those times, because nowadays I think the main we that you hear in songs is not about society, it's about a couple breaking up. It used to be, I think...
Tell Adele about it.
Yeah.
Yes.
With regard to Akiva's comment, I think John Lennon very much knew and wanted to connect himself with those ideas, and he pretty much wrote those songs with some purpose to be famous alongside those ideas.
Yes, but
he wanted
when
to be the protagonist
When I asked
of the
him,
ideas of peace.
is he against the establishment? He said, no, the establishment has its good points too. For example, marriage. We are married, he said, and this is an establishment game. I mean,
It's true too.
he was walking on a very precise string.
You know, I'm trying to think what draw you to sing John Lennon's song, because when we are, again, reading the lyrics, it has some meaning. It has some, let's say, the subtext is there. It's you can see it.
There's a lot of subtext, but for me, John Lennon was he was a musician, you know, and a genius one. John Lennon, Paul McCartney, you know, those couple, Lennon-McCartney.
Yes.
And first of all, he was a musician. So when my band sing a Beatles song...
Yeah, we're seeing watching it right now on the screen, yes.
When we are singing a Beatles song, first of all, it's the song, it's the music. And when you're trying to listen to the lyrics, you understand from where things are coming from. But first of all, it's this genius music.
It's genius music. Even when they're singing, "She loves you," yeah, yeah, yeah. It has so much like in it. Okay, you think that she loves you, whatever. You don't see it today. She loves me. He broke up with me. Love songs. That's it.
This is all you hear today, from what I notice. Is all the songs today are very concentrated on the ideas of
you're not frustrated as a musician when you hear the music today, and when you hear artists who are being so shallow, so, you know, narrow-minded, not opening their mind to something else, not looking in opening their music to something else, and apparently the bottom line is just selling records and gaining more money.
I think musicians today are about something completely different than what they used to be at the turn of the century and before then.
It's
completely different.
It's the texts,
Singers,
the texts.
the texts are
I mean,
almost insignificant.
The Israeli...
It's also the technology. You know, today we have a computer that does
Everything.
everything.
In Israel, we pass from the we to the us.
Which means?
Which means at the beginning of the state, I mean, songs were about the country, about the society, about building. And now it's about I love her, she loves me. It was
The individual.
It was a very nice night, and so on.
You know, but I'm trying to think about for example, I used to grow up, and like when I grew up, people are singing the song "Lucy in the Sky of Diamonds" each and every time that they're seeing me. Or so I'm asking myself, this song was about drugs, as some people will say, and some people will say no, it's about a girl named Lucy, that she's a little bit.
It's about a drawing. It's about a drawing that John Lennon's young son, then Julian, drew in the kindergarten. So they say, but it happened to have the letters LS and D, and so why not? It's about drugs. Worked well with the PR of the Beatles. Yeah.
It's again, the PR is such an important thing, and like let's say just you two have had a concert just 2 days ago after the terror attacks in Paris, and it meant so much, and everybody's talking about it. But you know, 2 days after, 1 day after, nobody will remember the show of U2 after the attack, or of the, let's say, the musicians who played with U2 that played at that horrific night in Paris.
First of all, U2 did cancel some shows in Paris, and I'm also sure I have to make this comment. I'm also sure that there were other bands who came back to Paris to perform before U2 the previous 2 nights. But again, U2 they have a monstrous PR machine that worked all the way to the news agencies for us to show it on the news broadcasts, and this is what U2 are about, alongside their fine ideas of peace and harmony, which are nice. They've inherited those from people who were a little more authentic about those ideas, like Lennon, McCartney, and Harrison, and Starr. Ringo Starr just a few months ago celebrated his 75th birthday in an event called Peace and Love. Very naive, very not like today. But still, he represents that spirit still.
You know,
well, John Lennon was also very naive. For example, when I asked him about solutions in the Middle East, what was the solution he spoke about? a shouting conference. The Arabs from one side of the border, the Jews on the other side of the borders. They will shout so loud till they will be very tired and then they will fall on each other's arm.
And you spoke to Lennon about peace in the Middle East, didn't you? Because today speaking about peace in the Middle East is a far-fetched idea. The word peace does not belong.
Singing about young children, about small children, about babies, like We Are the World. We all know this song. Can you imagine a song like that happening in 2015? It will have like worldwide encouragement and saying, oh, this is...
Maybe in a commercial for something.
Yeah.
It's like totally commercial.
If it has to raise money for something.
Raise money for...
We are coming back to the same idea that art today is mainly in service of big money.
Okay, so first of all, gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm glad that I grew up in the generation that I grew up in, all of us. Thank you very much, and don't ever stop imagining. Imagine. Good night. Tomorrow will be...
See if you try.